recognize. Action.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. David Wade. We're up here at Anniston Chiropractic at 3001 McClellan Boulevard, right up the hill through Anniston, heading north, 1 block before you get to Dad's Barbecue. We're all on the left as you head north out of town. I'm excited about being with you today. One of the things that I was going to talk about is some of the things that we discuss with our patients. I talked to them about if they're going to be a patient here, there's 3 absolute requirements to be a patient. The first one is, requirement number 1 is you got to get better. If you're coming to see me and we find the problem, then the first requirement is you've got to get better. And most people are pleased with that. They want to get better. As a matter of fact, I was telling this young lady earlier today, I said, I just absolutely love to see the joy of your success that you've been getting coming up here. And she said, I'm back again. I was like, well, I'm just excited about seeing you. And it's part of my purpose and mission is to be able to help as many people as we can and give you the best care available anywhere. And so I am constantly refining and developing new strategies and techniques to be able to hopefully provide a better job. Things that I do now in my office, I would say a year ago we didn't do. We have things that we do brand new that we've never done before, things that I've learned, new research that's come out, and some important things that are kind of critical that I feel like you need to know. And that's sort of the second requirement of being a patient is I want our patients to know and understand more about their bodies and how their bodies work. And so we have these little question and answer things that we do on re-exams. It's not really to find out if you know or don't know the answer. It's really to kind of determine if I'm doing a decent job in communicating to you the things that you really need to know in your relationship to being a patient and continuing on. Because I don't really want to tell you what to do. I want to teach you how to live for the future so that you have the confidence of knowing that you can move forward in your life and be healthy and not have to have a reoccurring same old problem repetitively over and over again. It gives me great satisfaction in knowing that, number 1, you have a destiny, and I know for a fact that your price for your healing has been paid for, and if you can obtain your healing, you're going to be more productive in your mission and purpose in your life. And so that's what I've been called to do, and I feel very comfortable doing what we do, and anytime I find a better way or think of, see more research and the practice of chiropractic has progressed. There's still people doing things like they did in the 1940s and 50s and 60s, and some things we do the same. But there's a lot of new things based on some of the newer research that's out that we are really purposed to be able to provide for people to be able to get the maximum improvement in the shortest period of time and ultimately change the structure. My big thing is, changing your posture. And so one of the first things that we do in the analysis is we look at posture. And I'm working on a program where you can actually, I'm going to be able to have you be able to take your own posture pictures and send them to a place for me, and then I can do an analysis and send you the results back on your posture without you even having to come up and be a patient. The other thing we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to review the exercises that you need to do, and we can actually review that with you without you even having to come up and be a patient in the office as well. And so, it's part of an ongoing home care strategy where we can actually work with you outside of the office and watch and demonstrate and make sure you're doing everything that's necessary. And so you've heard me say, if you've been listening to me for any length of time, that the spine and nervous system is the foundation for health and life and strength in the body. That's important. Understanding that the spine and the nervous system is really the core foundation for everything being able to function in your body. And the spine has 2 major functions. One, it's the central hub of all moving parts. So if you're going to move correctly, you've got to have proper posture and alignment. But the other thing is it's carrying the information, the power and life and the energy from your brain to your body. And that power that you have within you is what provides for your recovery and maintains you and keeps you alive and is what is the source of healing. So I don't put that in there. We're just trying to remove barriers so that it flows. So in our reevaluations, my first question to a patient is, what flows through the spinal cord?
Life.
Life and energy. It's power. It can be measured electrically or with tone or frequency. And if you were in the hospital with somebody who's on their last legs and you watch them with a machine attached to them, they have this little activity thing measuring brain activity. And when it flatlines, they can say, well, you can go ahead and unplug them now because they're not there anymore. And it's kind of tragic, but that is life. It is what we have that keeps us alive and provides for our healing. So what flows through the spinal cord? It's life and energy. It's the power that made your body, that heals your body. And now there's another thing that we use, and it's a term called subluxation. So what is a subluxation? Basically, a subluxation is a misalignment where the body's not lined up properly and it begins to have a chokehold or an interruption or resistance in the line of that power that's running from your brain to your body, and it basically causes a loss of function. Your body doesn't work the same when you have misalignment like that. And so that's what a subluxation is in essence. It's an obstruction of the life that you should have. It's like a disconnect. And there is a term that we use called the arc of life. Now, I'm not sure if I've ever introduced that term to you. It's kind of a term that I've known forever, but I don't use it enough. The arc of life is actually the arc of forward natural banana-shaped curve in your neck. That's the arc. An arc is a segment of a circle. That circle ideally is 42 degrees. That's the ideal arch of the neck, is a arc of a circle that is 42 degrees in dimension. And so what we want to be able to do is identify how far off are you to the natural ideal posture and alignment. And our goal is to move you back towards better posture and alignment. And the natural arc is 42 degrees, and the head should be right up over the shoulders. So another thing that we measure is when you lose that arc, typically the head translates forward and it flattens the curve and sometimes even reverses the curve and loads the joints abnormally, and it creates an imbalance in muscle that leads to tension increases in different parts of the body. It changes the mechanics of the loading of the spine. And so when you lose the arc, that's basically what happens. It compresses, it chokes off, it changes the holding patterns and the ability for your body to move. And so a good question is, how does your posture affect your health? Well, that's just exactly what we've been talking about. That's why we look at your posture. That's why we want to know how you're doing. That's why posture is so vital. Your head and shoulders ought to be straight up and down. Your spine should be square and level. Looking at it from the front, it should be straight. And the hips and shoulders should be parallel to the ground. You shouldn't be torqued or twisted. And that posture is important, and it's directly correlation to the alignment. And so when we look at posture, that's a simple way of analyzing how lined up or not lined up you are. So that's really the first series of questions, and it's sort of the basic stuff that we go over. So let's talk about a little bit more. So here's another thing that we try to communicate. What is the most common postural distortion? You could look at Justin and see how he's sitting. And it's that
Let me
forward-
demonstrate actually.
You're going to demonstrate how
I'm
you were
going to
sitting?
demonstrate. Come on, stretch.
They can't really see it. Well, that's how he was sitting. So this is not the best posture. The most common postural distortion is the head translates forward. You end up with this hump on your back and shoulders, and then it begins to create a compressive load. And one of the things, big nerves that's interfered with is the vagus nerve, which is a predominant brake control of the heart, and it's a stimulant for digestion. So it's a resting and digesting nerve. And if you have too much pressure on that area, you're choking the life out of the vagus nerve and interfering with blood pressure, creating
That
abnormalities.
explains why I'm tired all the time too.
And you're fatigued and irritable, and you don't digest your food very well, and there's all kinds of associated things that's connected to that. So that's really, so the most common postural distortion is that forward head syndrome. So how does that forward head syndrome make your body weak? The average head weighs about like a bowling ball.
About 15 pounds, 20
It
pounds.
varies anywhere from, I saw somebody today with an estimated 7-pound head, and I've seen people with a 20-pounder, you know. So, but it varies in size and shape and based on your body weight and mass. The heavier you are, the bigger the bone structures are in your head as well. So, but if I gave you a bowling ball and said, here, hold this up, how would you hold the bowling ball up properly and walk around all day with it? Your wrist is bent and it's up close to the shoulder. That's how you would hold it. That gives you the most stability, and it gives you the maximum ability to hold the head up straight when it's out, up, and balanced. Now, a forward head posture, so if I said, okay, lose the arch in your curve of your wrist and shift the bowling ball forward, I can assure you, you would probably drop that thing almost immediately. Even somebody built and strong, like you, Justin, could not hold that ball up tilted forward. It magnifies the load and the weight. Based on physics, and sometimes we see people translated their head forward, that instead of having like a 12-pound head, it's like a 60-pound head. Now, what's going to happen to a body that it is now carrying the effective weight of 60 pounds instead of 12 or 15? It's going to make
3 times the weight.
you're going to make you
And you're
tired and fatigued.
Yeah.
And so,
Angry, irritable,
well, it's
possibly.
going to put all kinds of stress on your body. So, anybody get fatigued? Anybody have blood pressure problems? Anybody get irritable?
Blood pressure for me has actually been pretty good the last
It's been
couple
better,
months.
yeah, but we've been really doing a lot of work on you too, so. So forward head posture, forward head syndrome weakens the body because of physics. Head translates, doubles or triples or quadruples the load, and over time, your body gives out. So we start out most of our patients in the beginning of their care with more frequent visits, and the question is why? Why is it important to come in maybe 2 or 3 times a week in the beginning? The answer is because of muscle imbalances and patterns that you've developed over time to compensate for the posture and misalignment. The muscles have a memory and will pull you back out to an old pattern, and the normal adjustments will typically last in the beginning sometimes 12 up to 24, 36 hours perhaps, 48 hours if we're lucky in the very early parts of the treatment. But we want to eventually get it where it's lasting a week or 2 weeks or even a month, you know, where you're holding your posture. How does that happen? Well, this is the question. Why do you do your home rehabilitation exercises? And why are they so important? Well, if we're going to get the bones to stay lined up and strengthened in the correct position, you got to change the holding patterns. The muscles, if you don't change the holding patterns and the muscles don't get rebalanced, how would you ever expect an alignment to maintain itself in a correct posture and positioning? It just absolutely does not.
And it takes training to get your body used to it.
Your body requires training. So, you know, it's work. So one of the requirements to be a patient, the third requirement is, I have to absolutely count on you to do your part, to be willing to do your exercises and to work. You can't just leave it up to me to make an alignment and expect it to stay where we want it to stay for any length of time if you're not willing to do the exercises and be a participant. And I'll tell you this, honestly, it's like anything in life, the more effort you put into something, the better results you're going to get. So it's kind of like these become essential components of the process of us learning how to work together. These are kind of critical things. So that's sort of like the next series of questions that we ask. And then we get, usually about the time we get to the third exam, you've learned a lot, and Your body's starting to stay lined up better, and you're moving better. And so the question then becomes, what is the most important phase of care? Is it the initial intensive care? Is it the corrective care? Or is it the stabilizing care? And each of them are important for different reasons, but what would you say is the most important? For long-term health and vitality, what would be the most important care?
I would say just being sure that you can just get corrected.
Well, make sure it'll stay lined up the correct way, right? That's the key. You know, the longer you can keep it under control and not let it tighten back up. So to me, the most important care is the stabilizing care or the maintenance care. That's probably the most important, but it's also the one that I have over the years emphasized the least. We've always emphasized the beginning and getting people feeling better quickly. I mean, the guy that walked in here bent over double, looking at the floor, and within 2 visits, he's standing up straight and able to lay on the table. I mean, is that not miraculous? We get somebody that couldn't walk, and they walk in, and they come back in, and they say, guess what, Dr. Wade, I was able to walk all over the mall, and I hadn't been able to walk in 10 years, and I went to Walmart, walked the whole place, and didn't have any problems. It's miraculous.
That is miraculous.
Yeah, see, and it's exciting to see these radical changes, these miraculous things that go on. So, you know, I'm guilty of it too. We get caught up in the immediate gratification and the change that we want. But to be honest with you, the more important long-term care importance is the stabilization, and the maintenance is more important. And so we're beginning to kind of help people become aware of that in regard to where are we going, why are we doing what we do, what do you want? You know, if you're going to have a healthy, we talk about being healthy to 100.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I ask patients all the time, write down your 30-year health goals and bring them to me. Let me see them. Let's talk about it.
I thought that was a requirement.
It is a requirement.
Okay.
Well, honestly, I'm a pushover doctor. I'm not. I don't make people do anything, honestly, in the office. I tell you what I want you to do, but I can't make you do anything. If you're not going to do them, you're not going to do them. I'm of the type of personality that I'll tell you what I think you need to do, and you're paying me for my advice and understanding, and you're either going to listen to me and do what I say or you're not. And I honestly cannot make you do anything you don't want to do. There's nobody that can make you do something that you don't want to do. You're always only going to do what you want to do. Always. So I don't really, you know, I mean, I know some of my colleagues are pretty blunt about making people do this, or they kick you out. You can't be a patient if you don't do what they tell you. And that's pretty aggressive, but well, I mean, you know, I understand the reasoning behind it. I've just never done that. Maybe I should. Maybe I should get a little bit more forceful. Do what I tell you, or go somewhere else. You know, and I can understand the reason, because, you know, if you let's say you come to see me, and then you don't do what I asked you to do, and then you don't get the results that you want, and then you leave here, what are you going to say? Well, I tried, Dr. Wade, and it didn't help me. And I didn't get the results that I wanted. Well, you're not getting the results that I want either. And why? It's because you're not doing your part. So it's kind of important that we learn how to work together. I had a guy I just did a re-exam on. He'd been coming for about a month, and he told me, kind of mentioned it in the beginning, and he brought his MRI in, and we looked at it, and I'm like, ooh, that's bad, and I think I can help you. But I'm thinking he's getting better because he's not communicating that he still can't raise his arm up. And I didn't even know, because he wouldn't tell me. I said, how come you haven't? He said, I don't know. You know, I was feeling better and so much better than everything else. I didn't want to bother you. I'm like, dude,
It's about you.
this is what I'm here for. It's like, I need to know what's going on. And I told him this. I said, you know what the most problematic issue in any relationship? Communication. You know, if you're not talking correctly, communicating to one another, things are going to falter and fail so easily, unfortunately. So, I want to be able to communicate. We, as patient and doctor, have to learn how to work together and communicate properly, and to have clarity on what we're doing. And that's as much my problem as it is the patient's problem. It's not all on them. I mean, it's really my responsibility to try to bring that out of you, but at the same time, you have a responsibility to tell me what's going on. I need to know what your wins and successes are, but I also need to know what's not progressing the way it's supposed to. Well, we've started doing some different things, and we have an algorithm of care for somebody with a severe disc damaged spine, but we kind of skipped parts of it, and he's jumping straight into the epidurals, and he had one already and it didn't help him. So yeah, we'll see how this one goes. Maybe it'll work. We've been doing a little bit of work to kind of prepare him for it. Maybe it will help reduce the inflammation on that. It's a huge herniation. It's obstructing, it's compressing his spinal cord, and the entire posterior central left side of his cord is collapsed. I mean, it's normally a kind of shaped sort of it's not perfectly round in most cases, but it's kind of elliptical, and his is like compressed almost flat. So, that's called stenosis, but it's an acquired stenosis because of the disc herniation. I'll be honest with you, I'm probably one of the most credentialed spine care experts in many places around the country. And I've been nationally recognized in events that we've gone through, and I educate attorneys all over the country about how to evaluate and assign, look at injuries, and so I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good. I mean, I don't know my stuff, but I still have to know what's going on. I'm not a mind reader, but here's a question that's kind of important. How do postural distortions cause the two most common causes of death? Heart attack and cancer. Cancer. Two most common causes of death. How do postural distortions cause the two most common causes of death, heart attacks and cancer?
I can understand the heart attack part, but how about the cancer part?
Well, what is cancer? The answer is it's chaotic cell growth. It's chaos. So if you have good communications between your brain and your body, you're going to have less of a chance of developing chaotic cell growth. Whereas if you have a higher degree of stress and a decrease in the connection and control, you're going to have a greater opportunity for developing any type of health problem. And so, how do postural distortions cause the two most common causes of death, heart attacks and cancer? It has to do directly with the translation of the head posture and the decline in survival that occurs, all the research, I mean, we're talking published, not chiropractic research, but published medical research that validates survival being directly correlated with vagal nerve outflow. They measure something called heart rate variability, and it basically can measure whether or not you're going to survive. We've talked about this before over at the neonatal intensive care unit at St. Vincent's. They take the preemie babies and they actually do the heart rate variability to see if they're going to survive. And whether they're going to survive or not is dependent upon whether they have a good connection and control between their brain and their body. Are they going to survive? Are they going to live? Do they have to keep a closer eye on it? Directly connected to the integrity of the messages running from your brain to your body. So when your head translates forward, one of the first things that happens based on really recent research demonstrates that you have a correlated decrease in blood flow to the brain. How's that going to work out for you? If your brain doesn't have the right blood flow and energy to be able to have the connections and control for the rest of the body. Strength, reflex, balance, all of those things are directly correlated to just the head translation. Recent research published as recently, like last fall, So, I mean, this is stuff that's just coming, I mean, it's popping out left and right, but it's validating what I'm telling y'all is so critical for life and health. And that's why I say the spine and nervous system is the foundation for life and health and strength in the body. So how often should you come and for how long to stabilize your new spinal structure and your posture to maintain optimal spinal health for life? How long should you keep it under control? Is that, well, for the rest of your life is the correct answer. You know, some people have understood that, and but I'll be honest with you, I have done such a poor job communicating to people over the years. We calculated the other day that we've had in the last, let's see, 2014, it's 6, 7, 8, 9, in the last less than 10 years, we've had approximately, based on patient number counts, we've added approximately 23,000 patients
Wow.
in the last 10 years. That's a lot. But out of that number, what percentage do you think comes for what we call maintenance on a consistent basis? And how often should that be? Even a dentist tells you to come twice a year, you know, just to keep teeth clean and checked. How important are your teeth? Well, it's pretty important if you don't have any and you can't eat, but how important is your spine?
Extremely.
Life and health and foundation of life and health and strength in the body. Is it at least as important as your teeth? Maybe
More so.
twice as important as your teeth? Maybe 10 times as important as your teeth? I don't know. Whatever's right for you, you've got to kind of come to that realization. I believe that it's definitely more important. The teeth are important. I don't want to devalue that. And in my lifetime, dentists have done a heck of a job communicating about maintaining the integrity of the teeth. All the people my grandparents' age, they kept their teeth in a cup, in a jar beside their bed. Why? Because they had lost their teeth. They brought it out of their head and they all had false teeth. That was the standard back 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But now they've done a good job. They come in and they have you chew the little red capsule and look at your mirror and see all the gunky stuff on your mouth, and you're like, oh, I better brush those things, and you learn that how important maintenance and taking care of your teeth is. Well, you know, and I think if your spine was on your face and you could look at it in the mirror every time you looked at yourself, people would probably take better care of it, but they don't. They can't even see that their head translates forward, looking straight on in the mirror. You look at yourself standing up, and you're like, oh, I look pretty good. I'm pretty balanced. But you look at the side view, you're slumped over like a one little girl told me, she said, it was like a shrimp. I said, like a shrimp? She said, yeah. She said, I was curved. My neck was curved like a shrimp.
I was gonna say crooked politician, but
Well,
okay.
curved like a shrimp. She was bowed forward and her neck curved backwards, and she had this hump on her shoulders, which just really tore her up, and curved like a shrimp. So don't be curved like a shrimp, you know? Get your spine lined up, get it checked. So how often should you do your home rehabilitation exercises for lifelong health? The answer is forever. You gotta learn. That's why we try to teach you how to take care of yourself and what you need to do for that.
2 minutes.
And that's pretty much all the questions. If you've gone through these questions with me and you've understood what we talked about, I'm proud of you for that, because my patients, a lot of them don't get through all of these questions correctly. Many times, like the arc of life, I didn't really talk to you about that in the past. I apologize. But does this not make sense as we go through these questions? This is what we're going to be doing with our people so that you can become more educated about how do you take care of your spine and your nervous system for the rest of your life. So we're pretty much done with the workshop now. It's now almost 7 o'clock. If you have any questions, you can always message us or send us a Facebook message. Or I do want to mention that we do have a Facebook group page. It's facebook.com/groups/ Dr. Wade. And I have a lot of information. This time of the year, there's a great little croup soup recipe. It's actually called Dr. Wade's Famous Croup Soup. And I post it online every once in a while, but it's actually one of the main, most well-liked recipes that we have, because this time of the year, living in the South, we're gonna have sinus allergy issues with weather and seasonal changes like this, and so you end up with a croup. And we'll talk about that maybe another show, but you're welcome to go to the Facebook group page, download it for free. There's tons of articles that I've written and videos that we've had posted, and different, private things. It's a private group, so you have to request membership, but of course I'm gonna let you in. And we'd love to be able to communicate with you in a better, more productive way. If you have any questions, that's also a good way to ask for me to go over a particular topic, and we'll do that as we continue. So that's, I'm over my, it's more than 30 minutes. I apologize. This is Dr. David Wade, wishing you good health for a lifetime.
If you guys enjoyed the content of this video, please be sure to hit that like, comment, subscribe, and follow us. And we'll see you all next week on next Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Excellent. I appreciate your help, Justin.
You're very welcome, Doc. I enjoy doing it with you.